people are moved to contribute and volunteer because number one, they've been touched deeply. Like if they're not touched deeply, they're not going to hang out here. They've got to have had a deep and powerful transformation of their own. Number two, they feel like they're going to grow. They feel like they're going to be, expanded by participating. And oftentimes, and connected to all of that is that they have a vision to make a difference. And this was a beautiful environment to do that.
Nación Transformación, la voz de los centros, entrenadores y graduados.
Lisa, I'm so excited to have you in this episode. First of all, because I want to announce that we're going to rebrand our podcast.
Love it.
Now it's the Transformation Nation.
Yay!
We are all about transformation, distinctions, what is possible, trainers, center life. So I would like to kick off this conversation with you by knowing a little more about you, because most of our audience is Spanish-speaking or Latin American. And I'm sure most of the people have not heard about you. And well, it's fascinating to have the access to this story. That's why I'm, for one, very excited to be here with you today. So why don't you start us off with like your transformational history?
Okay, great. Thank you. So first of all, I'm super excited to be the inaugural guest on Transformation Nation. Yes. And I have to tell you that I am, I've been to Mexico many times. I'll talk about my experience there and training, etc. And I'm on day 410 of Duolingo doing Spanish. So I want you to know I'm working at the conversational piece. I got very good at understanding training language, but everyday language. So again,
how risky do you feel? Would you like to?
No, I cannot. No, we cannot do this in Spanish. Not that risky. We cannot do this in Spanish. Okay. So thank you for having me. I have been engaged in transformational work since I did my trainings in 1987. So I'm 66 years old. So there it is. I'm of that generation, everyone. Nice to see you. So I did the trainings in 1987, and I lived in Texas, and I did the trainings in Denver. And I loved it. It was life-defining. It was the most impactful experience of my life up until that time. And I was very excited about it. And there was no transformation where I lived in Houston. And so over a couple of years, I volunteered, I staffed, I did all of what many graduates do.
You would fly there every
And I would fly back and forth, and or Dallas sometimes, which is a little closer. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, I want this for my community. So I literally started a center in Houston in the late 80s. And then started
pretty soon after you did your
within 2 years. Yes. Yeah, within a couple of years. And then I started the center, and there was nobody to run it. Like there it was. And so I left my job as a financial planning investment manager. I have an MBA. So I left that job and then dove into transformation. So I ran that center for 2 or 3 years, and then they consolidated that with another center. And then I went to Florida, and I was the leadership coordinator in Florida. And
what part of Florida?
I was in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh,
it was with our friend Michael Strasner, if you know Michael. And then I was asked to.
I've heard about him.
Yeah. He's great.
I really want him to be on the podcast as well.
Oh yeah, he's wonderful. You'll love him. You remind me of him, actually. Very enrolling, very great in relationship. Awesome. And then I went to Washington, D.C. and ran that center for a long time, 8 or 9 years. And that's where I met Gabrielle Nasevich, and we became fast friends, and we call each other our brother and sister from a different mother. And when that center ended up closing, he and I started WorldWorks, which ultimately became WorldWorks Mexico and MexWorks and chili, all the things.
Yeah, and now we connect that to our Latin America history, which is like
Yeah.
Chile works, Argentina works, Mexico works,
Yes.
world works.
All the family. Yeah. So we started WorldWorks, and he spent some time in Mexico. We did some work in Vegas, Las Vegas. And then at some point, Mexico was really taking off. And so I started WorldWorks in Orange County, California. Long story, just ended up with graduates here. Moved myself. He was 100% engaged in Mexico and other places, Chile Works. And so I ran that center I was a center manager. I've been a leadership person, a center manager. And then I had already been trained up in the IPE, as we know it, IPE or advanced course, and did all the leadership weekends, did all of the workshops, abundance and prosperity and sexuality. And
when you say did, you mean like you were
I was a trainer. Yes, I'm trained in all of those.
Oh, sorry, great.
And yeah, so
well, I haven't done them, but I'm very curious about
so good. There's, they're all so rich. My experiences in the core trainings, intro, IPE, leadership, or basic advanced leadership, however they call the 1, 2, 3 level. It is a breakthrough and transformation in all areas of your life. And then these workshops, and this is why I started my money course, which we talked a little bit about before. The workshops take a deep dive down into those areas, abundance or sexuality or family, the family training, which involves the kids.
Never heard about that one.
Oh, that's a fun one. That's a super
relationships as well. Right?
Relationships. Yeah. It takes a dive like deep when the basic stuff goes big, wide and deep, but this goes even deeper.
Right.
So it's super cool. Bottom line, I've done pretty much everything but train the first level training, even though I've done many guest events, like thousands of guest events, and love every aspect of it. So I really understand and know the journey from when someone goes and talks to their friend to enroll them all the way through third weekend or staffing or whatever's next. Yeah. So I couldn't tell. I mean, every ounce of it is so juicy and wonderful. Yeah.
Fantastic. I love this. So I have this is more like I think I was thinking that I need to ask this to every guest that I have on the podcast, but what is your contract?
Oh, thanks for asking. I love it. I am a whole, loving, giving woman.
Yes, you are. I love it.
And whole in that context is integrity, wholeness, like that.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Talking about center managing, which you are clearly an expert at, managing centers, not only in one location, but different places.
Yes, yeah.
What would you say, speaking a little to our center managers, coordinators, center people, like what would be like 3 tips that you would give them to like what makes a good center run, or like what makes
yes,
because it has so many pieces. It's
so many pieces. Yeah. So number one, and I don't think this will be surprising, is the center manager, the head. I call them the context setter. It is vital that the center manager is connected to the bigger vision of transformation, of making an impact in the world. Like, what are we all up to? Why are we here together? And the center manager has to obviously keep track, like, are we profitable? Are we not profitable? Do we have enough people in the training? Is it effective? Are the upgrades effective, et cetera? And if a center manager loses, why are we here? Like, what's the transformational impact? What's the difference we make in families and marriages and with our children and our future? If they lose that, then it all becomes very hard. It's hard anyway. And I mean, like, challenging. Not hard in a way, challenging. Yeah. So number one is connecting to the vision.
but in that one, for example, like what are like some practical, like specific practices that help you stay connected? Because I've been there and I can see how you just like drift off slowly but surely.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're out there in the sea, lost.
Yeah, right. Lost and looking at the numbers and crazy, making yourself crazy.
Your hair's off.
Pull your hair out. Yeah. Well, first of all, make sure you, as a center manager, get in the trainings, go into a day or an hour or two of the first level, second level, and, third level if you're not training them, and especially the third weekend and what's accomplished by the journey. And so that's one practical tip. Number two is, have a practice every day of, what am I here for? What's my purpose? What's my divine, what is the divine asking of me? What is my spiritual purpose? And connect with that. And so you just got to find ways to stay in the experience of it.
Stay in the experience, right?
Yeah, stay in the experience. Yeah, and then say number two would be trust, commitment, assume nothing. We hear trust and verify. Well, I have it as trust, commitment, assume nothing. And what I mean by that as a center manager is trust your people to be doing their job. You can't over control, over manage. And at the same time, have ways that you can support them in being accountable, make sure, you've got not just declarations, but you're following through. And, it's challenging because you want somebody who produces the result. And at the same time, you don't want to disempower somebody like your enrollment manager or your leadership person if they miss a deadline or they miss a declaration or they miss a number. So I think it's trust, commitment, trust the heart and the desire and the devotion of your people, because nobody comes to work at a center that doesn't have a vision.
Right. Yeah.
It's the most underpaid, ridiculous job in the world.
Right. Yes. It's crazy.
It's crazy. Like you work for nothing and you work your ass off. And
every time I talk to someone, and recently I've been talking to a lot of center owners because we're doing this center training that I shared with you, which is
I love that.
Our trainers, we have the privilege of having him as one of the trainers. When I'm talking to a lot of center people, I hear that, no, like they want to keep themselves in the game, but I know like that's given. They're all there because like there's a calling.
There's a heart, calling, vision, all of it. Yeah. So you got to honor that while empowering them to win. There's a statement I heard, and I think it was a woman named Alison Armstrong who does work with men and women and couples and stuff. And it fit for this. And she said, no one is misbehaving. No one here is misbehaving, meaning none of your staff members are misbehaving. And then I tell that to my coaches, my seniors, I tell that to my seniors, like none of your LPs or gaps or whatever they call them are misbehaving. Nobody's misbehaving. Like, how do we up level and uplift and empower? So that's good. And then number three, take time off. Don't take yourself so seriously.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Don't lose the fun.
Yeah. Don't lose the fun.
Please. I try to tell people sometimes, like, look, the rules are this, and don't be boring. Please.
Yeah.
Don't be boring.
Yeah, I think somebody told me once, whenever you have an event, whether it's, LP or any of the GAP or any of the events, you must have two of three things. It's got to be fun. People have to learn something and they have to grow. So you can have two of the three. It can be fun and they can learn something. It can be fun, they can grow, or they can learn something and they can grow if it's not fun. But you got to have at least two of the three.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We're in transformation. We are always working with volunteers. I think that's part of the magic of transformation. talking to centers and how to manage a center, what would you say? Why are people attracted to being a volunteer in a transformational center? Like what moves someone to do this work,
Yeah.
even though it's like you said,
Hard work.
yeah.
Yeah. People are moved to contribute and volunteer because number one, they've been touched deeply. Like if they're not touched deeply, they're not going to hang out here. They've got to have had a deep and powerful transformation of their own. Number two, they feel like they're going to grow. They feel like they're going to be, expanded by participating. And oftentimes, and connected to all of that is that they have a vision to make a difference. And this is a beautiful environment to do that. I think those are the three key things.
And in your experience in time, like how do you keep having this be so, because
Yeah.
I feel like
Sorry. And let me say that I have totally screwed up and not been present to that and been a jerk. And I've been great at it sometimes. So, but I've definitely been a jerk on that side. One, remember they're volunteers. Remember that. Number two, keep appreciating that they're there and connect. Here's the key: connect it to their life. Okay, so if I'm senioring and I just had my person enroll or break through or great. Who did you get to be? What's the impact on your marriage? What's the impact with your kids of that you were just being?
so,
They've got to be able to connect it. Yeah.
Help them connect it, help them build that bridge
Yeah.
of what I'm learning and how it helps me in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk guest events, because you did a lot of guest events, and I feel personally, I like guest events a lot. At some point in my life, I kind of had this thought, and I entertained it for a while. I guess I'm not done with it since I'm bringing it up right now. And I was thinking, you know what? If you could be like a fantastic guest event giver, like you could make a living out of that. Just travel around the centers of the world doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, you could. Yeah, a lot of places don't do live guest events anymore.
Do you
Probably.
feel like they work or no?
They definitely did work. I haven't done a live guest event since before COVID, because after COVID, a lot of centers, instead of doing guest events, and I work for a company, as I told you, that I'm contracted to do the trainings for a company that does a lot of internet marketing worldwide. So they use online stuff. So I think, yes, I do think they work because people experience something. And I agree with you. I think, first of all, I think being an effective guest event speaker, and this may just be me talking about myself, it requires you to be very connected to the people there and enrolling and setting a big picture and holding the space. If you've ever tried to do a public webinar or masterclass, people come on Zoom, half the people aren't even turning their cameras on.
Right.
But in a guest event, people come, they choose to come because they have to drive there or get there. They come, and then once they're in your environment, it's like a little bubble. Because 99% of the time, they'll do what you ask them to do. They'll talk about their life. They'll open up. It's beautiful. It's such a privilege in my experience.
But some time I heard, like when you're doing a guest event, don't do the training in the guest event. Like don't try.
Yeah. I mean, you can work with people from a place of having them see something so they want more. You want them to see something. You want them to have an insight. You want them to have a discovery.
Have some experience, like
yeah, so that they want more, so that they take action. So you don't do the whole training in the guest event, but you don't just do a slippery, slimy little,
blah, 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 blah.
Right, like a PowerPoint. We wouldn't use PowerPoint, but like, you got to have them have some experience. And the other thing I guess has been so great about is that the graduates there are pure volunteers. They're in relationship with people, and they're the billboard for what the trainings are. Yeah.
So you want to have them share?
Yeah, you want to have them share, you want to have them be in dyads or partner shares. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
What would you think is like, or what did you use in your guest 7 days, like as a good small little exercise or experience that you can?
Yeah, we could talk about that, but let's do another podcast on that.
Oh, a whole new podcast.
Yeah. I was like, say, if you want me to train that, that's a whole different conversation.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. I think the guest events are and kind of like what we've been doing, like in the digital times, what they call a master class or a webinar. They're kind of like new day guest events.
Yeah, they can be. And they can work if you set them up correctly. They can totally work. And the reason I say let's do another conversation, I don't want to say this is the exercise I do and then have people just think they know how to do it. I am a little bit of a traditionalist and a purist around the effectiveness and the implementation of the processes, whatever processes we do out there. And, I know people that have trained and trained and trained people, and that's fine for me because they're experts. But I think one of the breakdowns of the bigger transformational game is that we've got people out there doing transformation without the proper training to deliver some of these processes, because everything's context.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I learned a lot about what you just said.
Yeah, but you were talking about, can I just share a story? Because you were talking about crazy stuff that happens in the center, and then you brought up guest events. But here's one of my craziest things. We were in Washington, D.C., and we had an office, but we did the guest events in a hotel down the street because we needed bigger space. So this Holiday Inn hotel was above a restaurant. So I think I had Jeff Cosby, who at the time was like the president of, LifeSpring. It was after John Hanley left. A lot of people know John. Anyway, so Jeff is about to walk up and do the guest event, and all of the fire alarms go off. All of the fire alarms go off because there's a fire in the kitchen. And so we all have to evacuate. And here's what I said to my ops person. I was the center manager. I said to my ops person, go down the street to the Hyatt, get a room. We're coming. And so I make this huge announcement. Everybody walk down the street to the Hyatt. It was like 4 blocks away. Walk down the street. We're going to just resume this at the Hyatt Regency. And so everybody follows. And literally, I think we had like 50 guests or something. We lost like 2 guests along the way. And then the room wasn't set up. It was just this room with chairs. And Jeff went up and did the guest event. It was just like one of those moments where it's like, handle it, like what it is to be transformation, like handle it. It was great. It was so fun.
And that's great to keep that living in the centers because
it was like, all right, everybody follow me. And I grabbed the enrollment forms on the way out. Like they were all on the back table. I grabbed all the enrollment forms and took them.
I hope it went well. It sounds like a great
I think it was fine.
You can't plan something as fun as that.
Yeah, no, I think it was okay. We didn't bomb, it wasn't a bomb.
It was great to start off, just to move from one building to another and not only lose 2.
Yeah, totally. It was so great. It was just like outrageous commitment. Like that's what I love about the work. Outrageous commitment.
Any other like great stories that you remember or crazy stories that you remember of the?
Well, let's see. Crazy stories that I remember. Yeah, I remember there was a guest event. Let me try to think on the train. Oh, yeah, like this one guest event, somebody was there. Again, we had a speaker, and this person walks up on stage, and they were either resistant, like they came in to be resistant, or they were crazy. I can't remember what. But the speaker was so great. He's like, I hear what you're saying now. How many of you out there had a positive experience? You know, and all the graduates are like, yeah. You know, it's just like, just the unexpected, I think, is really so great. And there's, I'm sure, many other, you know, crazy stories, especially stretches and stuff we would send people on.
During your time working, did the training change a lot?
Well, I was around a long time, so it changed and it changed back. So, for example, the first level intro was always traditionally 3 nights and 2 days. And then they changed it to 3 full days. And I think they were trying to follow the landmark model. And it really was, in my experience, not as effective. And then they went back to 3 days. And no, I don't know if they ever went back, but I went back. Gabrielle and I went back. We went back.
I said, realized it worked better for you.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Why do you think, or what happened when the live stream closed? Why did live stream close?
You know, I don't know. And I know you have a relationship with John. And, you know, it felt like to me, John had fulfilled his mission in that way and was on to whatever the next calling for him was. And so, you know, and in some ways, I think it's been beautiful because it's unlocked a lot of people with a lot of passion to keep the trainings going. In Latin America, in the United States, South America, even in Asia, you know, there's places where the trainings are really done beautifully and well. And I don't know if that would have happened if he had kept it.
I don't think so. I have to agree on that. I think the speed of growth wouldn't have been possible in that.
Yeah, for sure.
It also has that double edge, which you also mentioned.
Yeah, you can get, it's the Wild West. You don't know what you got.
Yeah, it's both, but yeah.
Sure. Good.
Another different question. What is your favorite transformational song?
I don't have one.
You don't have one?
I don't think I have a favorite. No. There are songs that in my own experience and my own trainings mean something to me because of my experience. And then there's songs I use in the training that are always going to be very, because I do the second level, I do IPE and leadership, that are always going to be very meaningful to me. And also because some of them I love very much. I've heard them so much. I don't want, if I'm in the radio in my car, I don't want to hear them. I only want to hear them in the training, you know, because it means that to me. Like Imagine, John Lennon, Imagine.
Like Ritual?
Yeah, like John Lennon, Imagine is an incredible song. It's like a classic, iconic song. And I only want to hear it in the training because I don't want it, I need it to be in the meaning for me. I know that's a little crazy, and maybe it's just me being crazy.
But I can definitely relate to that because it keeps it very special.
Yeah, it keeps it sacred, I think.
Like just another song on the radio. It's like,
yeah,
it has and coming back to what you were sharing to us about being a center manager or working on the training, like keeping yourself grounded in that way of being in that experience. That's something that will reignite experience.
Yeah, for sure.
Something that I really liked about you is like how you moved into the digital world, and I'd like you to share with us about the training that you're doing, the money training. Also a little more what's that about, because that's a fascinating topic for
well, everybody has to deal with money. You know, so there are some key fundamentals that we all get to deal with that we have a lot of energy on. One of them is money, one of them is sex, one of them is our relationships, sexual relationships, and then sometimes our health or our especially if it's not good. So, along the way, I realized I started doing a deeper dive into what is money and why does, because here's what I noticed in my own life, I would have times where money was very abundant and flowing and times when it wasn't. And I was working just as hard, whether it was flowing or not flowing. It's not like I didn't work as hard, you know? So I thought, well, what's going on? So I started to do some deep diving into it. And one of the things that I looked at is, you know, first of all, if everything is energy, if we think about it, if we take our anything down to its tiniest, smallest particle, it's neutrons, protons, all bouncing around, okay? Electrons bouncing around. Okay, so we're energy. So money is also energy. Now we think money is something else. Like 500 years ago, money might have been like an exchange of furs or pelts or spices or something like that. And then at some point it was coin, like gold or silver or copper coins. And then it was paper, you know, cash. Some people, I still like cash, by the way. And then it was checks. You know, your parents probably used checks. And then it was credit cards and debit cards.
I've written 3 checks in my whole life, I think.
Yeah. No, I still write one every month. It's like one, you know. And now it's this. Everybody just puts their phone on the thing. And in my grocery store, Whole Foods, if you've ever heard of that, you literally can put your palm down and it reads your palm and charges you. Or you go into an Amazon Fresh store and because your phone is connected or your watch, you go, you get groceries, you leave, it charges you. Nobody's there. So, and we have e-currency, e-currency. So money has changed its form, but it's an exchange of value. So here's the point. If money is energy, it can be attracted and it can flow, just like energy. It can be attracted and it can flow. So I do a course on what are the key things that limit you attracting the flow, like us. So you're either stopping the flow or you're allowing the flow. That's it. Yeah.
You're allowing it to flow or you're
in the way. So I do a course on are you stopping the flow and what are the things that stop the flow? Because we all are sometimes. And what will attract the flow. So one of the things we could give your listeners is I do this little quiz where people can look at what are some of the unconscious beliefs they have that are limiting the flow. Yeah.
I love that. We'll put it in the description.
Yeah. Can you want me to put it in the chat?
No,
but yeah, I'll get it to you so you can put it in the show notes. Great. Yes. That'd be great. Yeah.
I want to do it.
Yeah, it's super fun. And so I do a 6-session online course. It's all virtual where I train live modules and we just work through the mindset part of money so people can open the flow and shift their, it's a relationship. We have a relationship with money like we do, with other things. Yeah.
So in my experience, let's see what your point of view is on this, but it feels like sometimes I understand what you're saying, like money flowing as energy and like me allowing it to flow or interrupting it. But sometimes I also feel, or it looks like you can force it to happen. Like you can create it by force, your earnings.
Yeah. Yes. And ultimately the flow will cut off if it's all by force rather than a natural process.
So it's not sustainable.
Yeah. So that's why you've heard many coaches or people say, look, when you're doing what you love, when you're, when you're out making a difference, impacting the world, doing what you love, the money flows because it's a natural, expansive process. So it's super fun. It's super fun. And can I just talk about my book real quick?
I was going to ask you about it.
Okay, good. I have a book.
I especially love the title.
Yeah, I have a book which is not just about, it's not about money, it's about everything. It's like for your people, it's like a transformational handbook. Like if they speak English, they can just pick it up and go to a page. And it's called The Problem is How You See the Problem. Because everything, the core foundation of the trainings and of transformation is everything's a neutral event, and we've created an interpretation. And so if you can see that the problem is how you see the problem, then you can give yourself space to make things happen. But it goes through many distinctions: be, do, have, intention and mechanism, all the major core distinctions.
I'm so excited. I just ordered it.
Good, thank you.
Actually, I didn't order online, especially because my partner, Alexandra, she's very adamant about me not buying stuff online if I can go to the local store.
Yes, I love it. You found it at the local store?
Went to the local store and ordered, and they said, "Hey, I'll order it for you."
Oh, great! I love it. I love it.
Yes, that's the one by Lisa Kalmin. So
that's right.
It's coming tomorrow or Sunday.
I love it. I love it. That's great. Beautiful, beautiful, super good.
Thank you so much for being here.
I'm thrilled. Thank you. And thank you for doing work with people who are in the work of transformation day in and day out. Like, I really know the people you're connecting with and making a difference with are the people that nobody ever knows. Nobody knows who they are. They know the trainers, they know the stars. You're making a difference with people who, an enrollment manager who gets on the phone and has to hear somebody trying to drop out of the training and love them and listen to them and see what's happening, and the kid is sick or this is happening, and then they enroll them back into their vision, or have the heartbreak of knowing they're not coming. Like, I know what that's like, and thank you for that. Yeah,
you're welcome. I do it with all love, also because I, like you, consider myself a center guy, a center person. I love that work. And I think it's kind of like underrated in transformation.
For sure.
But I like, and when you were saying this, I see like how brave someone needs to be to do this work every week, every day.
Every day, 12, 14 hours a day.
Put your heart on the line every time and have it broken and still trust. And it's like, it's also probably the best training on earth.
Yeah, no question. One of my friends who used to work for me is a investment manager. He's a stockbroker, and he manages branches. He goes, the greatest training I ever got was being a coach, being a senior.
There
you go. So thank you
so much. We'll leave the links for everybody to check out the tests, the book, and maybe connect with you on social.
That'd be great. Yeah, social under my name. No problem. Sounds good. Thank you, Cecilio.
Nación Transformación, la voz de los centros, entrenadores y graduados.